If you've been doing something for a long time, chances are you've developed some habits for those particular activities. Maybe you've gone into a routine to get up every morning to work out, or maybe you've gone into a routine of not getting up and procrastinating every day. Maybe that gym session will come tomorrow, or the day after. In Valorant, you can also just as easily develop habits in the game, whether they're good or bad. If you've been stuck in the low ranks, chances are you've either developed primarily bad habits, or you just haven't developed any good habits yet. We're here to fix that. Here are 3 habits you need to develop in Valorant that will make the game 10 times easier. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Before we get into today's content, this video is only a small portion of what we have to offer. If you want a truly comprehensive guide on how to improve in Valorant, then you want to check out our website at SkillCapped.com. Our courses break down everything players need to know detail by detail to begin climbing the ranks. Our simplified teaching style ensures that any player can understand and apply these concepts. The link will be provided in the description below. Now let's jump into the video. First up, a great habit to have is to, follow the enemy's habits. A big part of Valorant is reacting to what the enemy does. Start off by focusing on one player on the other side. See what position they tend to play and whether they tend to be aggressive or passive. For example, in this game, I decided to target the enemy Omen, who wasn't doing very hot. I knew he was playing the B site and was playing aggressively every round. As a result, I was able to punish him for this aggression by predicting that he would teleport up to green like he usually does. Sure enough, he does it again, my crosshair is ready and it's an easy dub. This Omen didn't learn his lesson the first time and proceeded to teleport up green again and again and again. Well, let's just say we capitalized on that and were able to gain 3 easy rounds just off of realizing this small habit. In low ranks and even higher ranks, there are typically common habits that players have, and if you recognize them, you can figure out a way to counter it. Most of these players will also continue these habits even if you've already exploited them on it. To give another example, a lot of low rank players don't have the patience to just sit and hold the choke point. As a result, they end up pushing instead in hopes of flanking and getting some easy kills. This may work the first time around when you don't expect it, but once you do, it's very easily countered by simply having a player lurking and waiting for them to come by. The rat gets out-ratted. If a player is less sneaky beaky like and just pushes straight up for raw duels, then the next round you can have an extra player with you, so at the very least there's good potential to win the fight or at least get a trade frag. Last but not least, another habit to watch for is if an enemy is too passive, meaning that they don't try enough to grab information from you. Or if they're not that great of a player, they will just stay on site waiting for an aim duel and won't use any abilities to slow your team down. This is one of the easiest habits to punish because the enemy isn't doing enough to figure out where you and your team are located. They have no idea what site you're about to hit. Better yet, if the enemy is just holding far back on site alone with no ability usage, you're going to have a pretty easy time pushing. Walk up to the choke point and then overwhelm them with their own abilities and strength in numbers. Smoke choke points off, flash in, and charge in. The odds are in your favor unless it's TENS holding the site again. Then, well, tough luck. By identifying a habit and exploiting it, you can very quickly diminish that player's impact and give yourself man advantages round after round. At some point they may switch things up, but it might be too little too late when you've already grabbed 2, 3, maybe even 4 rounds off that one habit. Even if they do decide to switch things up, it's no big deal. Figure out what they changed and then identify a new way to take them out. Maybe this means using your utility elsewhere, or maybe having a teammate to back you up when facing this player. Overall, this is a good mentality to have going into your games. What is the enemy doing and how can I counter that? Start off by targeting one player and then eventually work your way broader by weeding out what habits every enemy player has. See where the weak link is and abuse it. Now that we've completely destroyed one of the enemy's mental, let's get back to ourselves. Another great habit to have is to monitor where your teammates are positioned. When you're trying to make plays with your team, well, wouldn't it be helpful to know where your team is? 1000%. In low ranks, one of the most common mistakes we see is when players try to make an individual play. Sure, if you're 10s this will work, but if you're playing players of the same skill level as you, the individual play has a 50-50 shot of working out. Not exactly the most favorable. Teamwork makes the dream work. Let's drop an example. Let's say we're on ascent and the enemy is pushing down middle. Well, you don't want to just give them middle for free, as it opens the door for the enemy to essentially push anywhere they want. So let's fight for it. You're positioned on cat and your teammate is positioned in middle. With this setup, you can push from 2 different angles and pincer the enemies. This divides the enemy's attention and gives you a greater chance of fragging out. Here's a more niche in-game example where we hold the A site through good teamwork and communication. The enemy starts with a cat push, and hearing that there are multiple enemies coming in, I decide to back off, and in regards to these smokes and dashes, let's just pretend that we didn't see them. Knowing that I'm low on health though, I decide to back up and get into an off angle up on generator that could surprise the enemy. It works out and I get the pick on Omen and immediately back out. Here's where the teamwork and positional awareness comes in. I see that my Sage has walled off a main and is actually boosted on top of the wall. There's a very low chance the enemy will check this position. Rather than peeking out again, I simply distract the enemy and wait for them to push far enough so that my Sage can pick them off. That's exactly what happens, and it's only after another frag is snagged that I decide to commit to a peek. We end up with a crossfire on the final player, and it's an easy sight hold. Positioning is practically half of what goes into winning duels. Get yourself in a good spot, but also consider where your teammates are. Based on where your team is positioned, you may want to wait for backup to arrive before you push yourself, or maybe there's a gap in the attack or defense and you want to get that covered. This is particularly important when pushing a site or retaking a site. In this clip, Fnatic purposely lets the spike tick for multiple seconds as they take that time to regroup together to play retake. They only begin to push when everyone is properly positioned to do so. A player gets revealed on site from Cypher Cam and the execute begins. Fnatic pushes as 5, and because of their setup and strength in numbers, they completely overwhelm the site and end up getting the defuse in an incredibly smooth fashion. Normally retaking a site against 5 attackers is pretty difficult, but if you wait for your team to properly position for a coordinated push, it becomes way more doable. I mean, come on, Fnatic made that look so easy. And don't forget, that's another professional team on the other side. And they made them look like bronze players. Last but not least, you should check ultimates before every round. Ultimates can completely turn the tide of a round, even if your team has worse economy and utility. Because of this, it's important to know when an agent's ultimate is up, especially really impactful ultimates like Sage's Resurrection or Killjoy's Lockdown. Do not let yourself get egoed. You'll hear pros call out when ultimates are up nearly every time. Most of the time, you'll want to call out when an enemy ultimate is up so your team is aware of it and can play around that information. For example, in this clip, we knew that Silva's ultimate was up and that he'd likely play far back in preparation for the defuse. With that information though, we know that if he plays too far back and misses 2 of his ultimate shots, then it'll be an easy defuse. This is exactly what happens during the final round. Silva only ends up landing 1 ultimate shot, and with Sage's heal, she can actually tank another one, which is why she stuck to defuse even when Silva had 1 more shot available. Easy peasy. It's important to note that you should also check for when you and your team's ultimate is up as well. That way you know to play around them. If you have a Sage res, your team can play a little riskier knowing that you can just bring someone back to life. Or maybe you have Lockdown available, you should probably hit a site where this ultimate will cover the most area. In this cut, we have Steel's team with Brimstone ult and the enemy team with Silva ult and also a Brimstone ult. Knowing this information, Steel's team tries to push a site with the idea being that Brimstone ult clears U-Haul. That's one stubborn choke point that you don't have to worry about during your site hit. But don't forget that the enemy also has a Brimstone ultimate and can do the same thing back. That along with the Silva ultimate, although the enemy ended up using this preemptively and not getting much value out of it. So back to Brimstone. Knowing that the enemy has ultimate up, no one on Steel's team ends up playing on U-Haul until the enemy's orbital strike has been used up. Just a quick check on what ultimates are available completely changes how you may want to position yourself or play out a round. They're strong abilities and need to be respected and checked on so that there aren't any surprises. That's all we have for today's video. Work on these 3 habits every game and you'll quickly find yourself snagging more rounds and wins than usual. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below to help support us. Also, as mentioned before, if you're looking for the fastest way to get better at Valorant, we highly recommend checking out our new Academy course on the website. It has over 8 hours of video content that is designed to bring you up to speed on everything you need to know to hit Immortal in Valorant. Along with that, we have tons of awesome content such as agent courses made by actual Radiant 1 tricks, daily videos breaking down how to play every single map in the game, and so much more. We place a high priority here at SkillCapped on being the best place to improve at Valorant, but we don't expect you to just trust us on that, and that's why we offer a rank improvement guarantee. If you don't find the value you're looking for, it's literally no risk. So what are you waiting for? Click that link below and get started on your journey. That's going to do it for us today though. As always, we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.